What if I told you that the face on Nigeria's 20 Naira note once sat on bare earth, shaping clay with her fingers, never imagining the world would one day shape her into history? What if I told you that a village girl who never stepped into a formal classroom would receive a doctorate, travel across continents, and become a national icon? Tonight, on Cool Evening Tales, we journey into the life of a woman who proved that greatness does not always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears clay-stained hands. Stay with me till the very end, because this story holds a powerful lesson about identity, resilience, and cultural pride. And if you love rich African history told in a cinematic, heartwarming way, don't forget to subscribe to Cool Evening Tales and turn on your notifications so you never miss a story. Now, let's begin. Long before she became a national symbol, Ladi Kwali was simply a little girl in a village called Kwali, located in what is now Abuja in Nigeria. She was born around 1925 among the Gbagyi people, also called Gbari, one of the indigenous ethnic groups of central Nigeria. To understand Ladi Kwali, you must first understand the Gbagyi culture. Among the Gbagyi, pottery was not a luxury, it was life itself. Water was stored in clay pots, food was cooked in clay pots, ceremonial drinks were poured from clay pots. Even marriages and festivals required clay vessels. Pottery was a sacred skill passed down from mother to daughter. There were no notebooks, no chalkboards, no exams. The courtyard was the classroom. The teachers were mothers and aunties. The curriculum was touch, repetition, and patience. As a young girl, Ladi watched her aunt mold clay into vessels. She observed every movement, how the clay was kneaded, how coils were stacked, how surfaces were smoothed with calabash shells. Let's pause here. Coiling is a traditional pottery technique where long rope-like rolls of clay are layered on top of each other and blended together to form a pot. It does not require a wheel. It requires steady hands and deep understanding of balance. Unlike modern industrial pottery, traditional Gbagyi pottery was built entirely by hand, and young Ladi learned quickly. By her teenage years, she was creating large water pots, not small bowls, but tall, elegant vessels capable of holding significant amounts of water. Her designs featured reptiles like lizards. Her pots were not just containers, they were stories. Before the world knew her name, her region already did. Women from neighboring communities would visit just to see her work. Her pots were larger, more refined, more daring in design. She burnished them beautifully. Burnishing is the process of polishing the surface of clay using a smooth object, like a stone or calabash, before firing. This creates a soft shine without glaze. Even without formal schooling, Ladi had mastered chemistry without knowing the word for it. She understood how moisture, thickness, and temperature affected clay. She understood patience. And patience is the secret ingredient in all masterpieces. In the early 1950s, Nigeria was still under British colonial rule. A British studio potter named Michael Cardew arrived in Nigeria with a mission to establish a modern pottery training center. Cardew founded the Abuja Pottery Training Centre in 1952. He brought with him something unfamiliar to many local potters, the potter's wheel. The potter's wheel is a rotating device that allows clay to be shaped symmetrically as it spins. It enables faster production and thinner, evenly shaped walls. When Cardew encountered Ladi Kwali's hand-built pots, he was astonished. They were monumental, balanced, sculptural. He did not discover her, he recognized her brilliance. In 1954, she joined the Abuja Pottery Centre, and history began to turn, much like the wheel she was about to master. At the training center, Ladi learned new techniques: wheel throwing, high-temperature kiln firing, and glazing. Let's define glazing. Glaze is a liquid coating applied to pottery before firing. When heated in a kiln, a special high-temperature oven for ceramics, the glaze melts and forms a glass-like surface. This makes pottery waterproof and often decorative. Traditionally, Gbagyi pottery was low-fired and unglazed, but Ladi did something extraordinary. She blended both worlds. She threw pots on the wheel like European ceramicists, but she decorated them with Gbagyi motifs. She glazed parts of her vessels, yet left sections burnished in traditional style. It was fusion art, decades before the word fusion became fashionable. She proved something powerful. Modernization does not require cultural erasure. In 1960, Nigeria gained independence. The young nation was searching for symbols of pride. Writers, musicians, scholars, and artists began to define what it meant to be Nigerian. Ladi Kwali stood among them. Her pottery was exhibited internationally in Britain, Europe, and the US. Imagine the scene. A woman from rural Nigeria, dressed traditionally, seated before a wheel in London, shaping clay while foreign audiences watched in awe. She did not need speeches. Her hands spoke. For many Western observers, this was the first time African pottery was presented not as a tribal artifact, but as fine art, and that changed perception forever. Her work gained international acclaim. In 1963, she was awarded the Member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE. She later received Nigeria's National Honor of Merit, one of the country's highest honors. In 1977, Ahmadu Bello University awarded her an honorary doctorate. Think about that. A woman with no formal Western education receiving a doctorate from a university. Why? Because knowledge is not limited to textbooks. Mastery is not measured only by exams. Her life challenged colonial definitions of intelligence. Years later, in 2007, Nigeria placed her portrait on the 1920 Naira note. She became the first Nigerian woman to appear on national currency. Pause and imagine the poetry in that. Money passes through millions of hands. Market women, taxi drivers, school children. Each time someone touches a 20 Naira note, they touch the legacy of a potter, a village girl whose classroom was the earth. At the Abuja Pottery Centre, Ladi became more than a student. She became an instructor. She trained younger generations. She insisted on discipline. Clay must be wedged properly. Wedging is the process of kneading clay to remove air bubbles before shaping. Air pockets can cause pots to explode in the kiln. Yes, explode. Even pottery teaches life lessons. If you don't remove hidden pressure, things can shatter under heat. She emphasized patience. Clay cannot be rushed. If dried too quickly, it cracks. If fired too soon, it breaks. The kiln itself is symbolic. A kiln is a high-temperature furnace used to harden clay permanently. Temperatures can exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius. Heat transforms fragile clay into stone-like strength. Isn't that life? Adversity can either destroy you or strengthen you. Ladi Kwali did something extraordinary for Nigeria. She became a cultural ambassador without political appointment. At international exhibitions, she represented African excellence. She stood as evidence that Africa was not a passive receiver of civilization, it was a contributor. Her pottery combined indigenous aesthetics, European technique, modern identity. That blend became a metaphor for post-colonial Nigeria. She continued teaching and creating into her later years. In 1984, she passed away, but legends do not disappear, they multiply. Her works remain in museums and collections around the world. Institutions and streets in Abuja bear her name, but her greatest monument is invisible. It is the confidence she instilled in African artists. So, what can we learn from Ladi Kwali? 1. Your background does not limit your future. 2. Tradition can evolve without dying. 3. Skill, when mastered, commands global respect. 4. Cultural pride is power. She did not reject modern tools, she mastered them. But she did not abandon her roots, she honored them. And in doing so, she honored Nigeria. Picture her again, a young Gbagyi girl in Kwali village, dust rising gently around her, hands pressing clay, eyes focused. She did not know she would travel the world. She did not know universities would honor her. She did not know her face would appear on currency. She simply shaped clay with excellence, and excellence, when consistent, writes history. As the evening breeze settles and this tale comes to a rest, remember this: some heroes carry swords, some carry books, and some carry clay.